Beijing, China, August 21, 2025. Tensions between China and New Zealand flared today after Wellington's intelligence service accused Beijing of being the most active foreign power interfering in its internal affairs. At a regular press briefing, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning sharply rejected the claims, calling them lies designed to sow conflict. The exchange underscored how even middle powers like New Zealand are caught in the growing rift between China and the West. Sitting before reporters in Beijing, Mao Ning's message was unambiguous. She said China was strongly dissatisfied and firmly opposed to New Zealand's spy service conclusions. Mao urged Wellington to stop spreading lies and creating conflicts, warning that actions like this threaten the healthy and stable development of bilateral relations. The comments came just hours after New Zealand's Security Intelligence Service released an annual report naming China as the most active source of foreign interference in the country. The report described a pattern of influence operations, from cultivating political elites to targeting diaspora communities. While the agency also mentioned Russia and Iran, it highlighted Beijing as the most persistent actor in undermining democratic processes and shaping narratives within New Zealand's borders. For China, such accusations have become familiar. Over the past decade, Western governments and intelligence agencies from the United States and Canada to Australia and the United Kingdom have repeatedly flagged Beijing's covert activities. These include cyber espionage campaigns, political donations, and pressure on overseas Chinese communities. Each time, Beijing has denied the claims, calling them smears aimed at curbing China's rise. But the case of New Zealand is particularly sensitive. Long regarded as the most China-friendly member of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing network, Wellington has historically avoided direct confrontation with Beijing. It has deep trade ties, relying heavily on China for dairy, meat and timber exports. Yet today's intelligence report suggests a shift, one where even New Zealand feels compelled to openly identify Beijing as a strategic risk. This balancing act has left New Zealand in a difficult position. On one hand, it depends on China as its largest trading partner. On the other, it relies on its Five Eyes allies, particularly the United States and Australia, for intelligence, security, and broader diplomatic alignment. Experts warn that today's sharp rhetoric from Beijing could force Wellington into making tougher choices about where it stands in the evolving contest between China and the West. Reaction within New Zealand has been swift. Opposition lawmakers accuse the government of being too cautious in the past, saying the intelligence findings confirm long-standing warnings about Beijing's influence. Civil society groups have also voiced concern over reports of surveillance and intimidation within New Zealand's Chinese diaspora community. The intelligence service noted that community members are often pressured to align with Beijing's political positions, a trend seen across multiple Western democracies. China, however, paints a different picture. Officials argue that Western intelligence services are engaged in a campaign of fear-mongering, designed to vilify Beijing and justify closer military cooperation between allies. Mao Ning accused Wellington of creating conflicts that only serve outside powers' interests. Her comments echo Beijing's frequent argument that accusations of interference are less about national security and more about containing China's global influence. The diplomatic fallout could test ties that both sides have carefully nurtured for decades. China is New Zealand's largest export market, but it has not hesitated in the past to punish countries economically over political disputes. Australia experienced this in recent years, when Beijing imposed tariffs and restrictions after Canberra called for an inquiry into COVID-19's origins. Analysts say Wellington may now face similar risks should Beijing decide to retaliate. At the same time, New Zealand is under pressure from allies to show greater resolve. As tensions rise across the Indo-Pacific and from the South China Sea to Taiwan, Wellington's intelligence report aligns it more closely with the US and Australia's stance on countering Chinese influence. This could mark the beginning of a more assertive New Zealand foreign policy, one less hesitant to challenge Beijing openly. Back in Beijing, Mao Ning's remarks also carried a message beyond New Zealand. They serve as a warning to other mid-sized countries considering stronger scrutiny of Chinese activity. By condemning Wellington so forcefully, Beijing hopes to deter others from following suit. Yet with accusations of interference now spanning multiple continents, it is unclear whether such denials will carry weight or whether Beijing risks further isolating itself diplomatically. Analysts stress that this episode illustrates a larger global dilemma. How should democracies handle accusations of foreign interference without inflaming geopolitical confrontation? Intelligence services say transparency is crucial, but governments must also weigh the economic and diplomatic costs. For Beijing, the challenge is equally stark, convincing the world it seeks peaceful cooperation, even as its rivals cite evidence of covert operations. As the briefing wrapped up, Mao Ning left the podium without taking further questions, leaving the diplomatic storm to swirl. For Wellington, the warning signals a shift toward greater caution. For Beijing, the pushback is another chapter in its long-running rejection of Western intelligence claims. And for the world, this confrontation serves as a reminder of how even small nations are now frontline players in the contest between China and its critics.
上个月，俄罗斯正式承认阿富汗的领。
月份经济数据，其中外贸数据尤为亮眼，货物进出口总额创今年。
Service has accused China of being the most active country engaged in foreign interference.
下一个问题。
China's foreign ministry slams a warning from New Zealand's spy service that Beijing is the most active power engaging in foreign interference in the country, saying that the intelligence agency should stop spreading lies and creating conflicts. China is strongly dissatisfied with this and firmly opposes it, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning says at a regular media briefing.